Hey, y'all. Happy new month. It's the time of me recording this is the second day in Sagittarius season. I hope that whenever you listen to this, whether in the future or when it drops, I hope that it finds you well. How are you? How are you being? Are you being well? Today, my intention is to reflect. This is a reflection episode. Oh, I know we're in the beginning of Sag season. We're ready to fire and go. But before we do, I want to look back. I want to look back and reflect on Scorpio season and what came up. You know, a lot of astrologers and things about astrology you see right now, like what's going on in the transits right now? What's coming up? What do you need to do for this lunation? It just constantly keeps us searching for the next thing, going, and not really grounding in the present or inviting us to look back at the medicine that came with the previous cycle that we finished up, that we integrated. So that's my goal today during this particular episode. And more episodes like this to come. So let me know if this is something that you like, something that you resonate with you. But my goal as the cosmic doula, I naturally, with all of my earth placements, love to give grounded, practical ways to work with this energy. And I do this by creating like systems and channeling information in sequential order. So you'll hear a lot of that here in this podcast. But my goal is to build frameworks for ritual, for flow that we can really embody and integrate the medicine. And that's the beautiful medicine of and gift of Virgo, with all of my Virgo stelliums, is this way to really understand information and medicine, not in a critique perfectionist way, but in a way that can guide people to slow, deep, grounded transformation through systems and frameworks and rituals. So this is my personal ritual and reflection, my experiment. So I'm experimenting with it and I bring it here to the podcast. So we'll see how this goes. But I really do see the importance and value of not necessarily predicting transits, but reflecting on how we live through them. We learn so much more when we look back at past transits because the past transits become medicine when we integrate them. I always say work with the cosmos rather than letting the cosmos work you. And I feel like the best way that we can work with the cosmos is getting to know them, not constantly seeking, what are you doing for me? What is happening now? But going back and saying, okay, Scorpio, I see how your medicine really integrated through my life during this season, through your season. Let me pull some of the medicine for it. Let me integrate some of the wisdom that you gave to me so that I can know where to point my arrow in Sagittarius season. So this is all about grounding and sovereignty and intuition versus reaction when we go back and look at transits versus looking forward and predicting transits. That might change, but hey, this is the season that I'm in now. So this episode is all about Scorpio season integration. Scorpio season integration. So I invite you to take notes of some of the things that popped up for me. Notice what resonates for you, whether you resonates like, oh yeah, that feels good, or, that doesn't really resonate. Really tune into this message and take pieces of what could work for you. And really, I invite you to listen to those instinctive whispers and those instinctive intuitive hits, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But let's start off by talking about Scorpio, the themes of Scorpio. Scorpio season, things that come up is fear, grief, emotional intensity, death, rebirth, a detox, and going deep, the underworld. This season for me was all about speaking the truth of my feelings. Scorpio is a very emotional water sign, and water signs feel the feels, riding the emotional waves, not only riding the emotional waves on the surface, but riding those emotional waves and those feelings that we feel deep, deep, deep within our core. And I've heard somebody share about, the emotions and the feelings, and feelings can cause not focusing on our feelings and not letting all of those things fluster in the bottom of the ocean. They can cause irritability and sometimes pettiness when we don't understand and scan and do the emotional detox work needed in order to heal ourselves. We need to go to the bottom of the ocean to do that emotional detox. Really go down. Okay, this is what I'm feeling. This is what needs to be released. This is what needs to be composted. This is what needs to be cleared out in order for me to feel the things so I can get to the next layer that I need to do. So feeling in order to heal was a big theme for me in this Scorpio season. I remember Jessica Leneno in one of her weekly astrology readings was talking about the emotional scabs and how emotional scabs can be feelings that we cover up without really knowing what's going on inside, what's really going on underneath. What is the real true root of this scar, of this thing? I'm letting it heal, but is it detox? Did we clean it out? Did we get all the dirt, or is it just causing a scab on top of an infection? And so these emotional scabs are feelings that we cover up without really knowing what's inside. So this particular season, shadow work, detox, all of those. For me, the shadow work was all about my power and noticing how fearful I was of my power, of my solo power, being powerful on my own, and not leaning into codependence, collaborations, and partnerships in order to feel powerful, but reclaiming my own power, my own solo power. So that was a big theme for me, and not surprising because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and Pluto deals a lot with power as well. So where in your life did you find any shadow work themes around power in this past Scorpio seasons or Scorpio seasons in the past? Another theme is detoxing. So I was hearing the call to detox. Detox, y'all. I've gained a lot of weight and I'm hearing the call to detox. And the thing that's really been satiating for me right now is sweets. So eating sweets at the end of the night, which is, I know it's not good, and it's left me feeling heavy and burdened. So the pillars of wellness, the dimensions of wellness that I was focusing on in regards to detoxing was not only physically with sugar and sweets and comfort vices, but also detoxing the emotional weight that I've carried for others, whether that be my mom, whether that be partners, whether that be my daughter, whether that be my husband. I noticed that I was heavy, not only because of the weight, but heavy because I was carrying so many people's emotions that they didn't ask me to carry. So detoxing and releasing from that. Also, detoxing and releasing from socials and social wellness, right? So social media, community groups, group chats, seeing how people I was relying on, or not really relying, but the feedback of other people's emotions and things were constantly in my head. So I needed to detox myself to kind of, in a way, hermit myself or really pull back from social media. I'm not on social media at all, except for if you consider Substack as social media. social media community groups that I was involved in and group chats, I found myself just being a little bit more quiet, being a little bit more internal, because I noticed that some things have expired. And when things expire, they need to compost, right? You need to throw them away. You need to detox them. And Scorpio season speaks about this grief. And I love one of my favorite cards from Nyasha's, I think it's Afro Tarot deck. I'll put the link to the deck below, but one of my favorite cards in that deck is the Death card. And it's this beautiful image of a little girl playing in what looks like compost. You could see the rot and you could see the death and all of it around us, but through that comes creation. And, through grief comes fertile soil so new things can grow. And this speaks to Scorpio death recycle. And for me, a lot of the second and eighth house resources as well, because once you compose something that you truly value, it can be regenerated and it could be a resource for somebody else, and pouring that resource. So you see the second and eighth house themes there. So I also loved a beautiful quote that I read from my Laku sister, Regina, who wrote a beautiful Substack post that I'll also link before. This is also Gede season. Scorpio season is Gede season, death, rebirth, that cycle. And I quote her in saying, during this Gede season, I've been learning to trust the decomposition happening in my own life, the shedding of old stories, the breaking down of old patterns that no longer serve. Gede laughs at our human resistance to this process. They remind us you cannot bloom without rot. You cannot rise without descent. Whew. I mean, yes. The emotional layers, right? The decomposition that is happening, the shedding, the rebirth, the death, all of this. Gede reminds us of this, and they laugh. Gede is very jovial and, is full of life because they remind us what it's like to live. So, I encourage y'all to read that post. But for me, a big thing was fear of stepping into my power and noticing that fear was stopping me from connecting to my deepest power. So Scorpio season really revealed where I was running from fear and allowing fear to run the show, and showing me where I need to reclaim my power in order to step into my full sovereignty. So talking a little bit more about kind of the current astrological transits for me that showed up in the themes. The big themes for this season was identity and rebirth. The Sun and Mars and Uranus was all trining my ascendant. So this is showing me where I'm needing to shed old versions of myself and how I appear to the world, and stepping into a more liberated and honest identity. So not only was this the Sun, Mars, Uranus trining my ascendant transit, but this is also my year 1 transit. So this identity rebirth was definitely a theme. Voice activation and speaking my truth. Mercury was doing a lot of transits in my chart, as well as Saturn was squaring my Mercury. So this was saying the transiting Saturn was squaring my Mercury, which was saying that I'm learning to speak clearly without shrinking myself, without over-explaining like my Virgo stellium loves to do, but just softening to my truth. So I feel like that voice activation and that truth selling showed through my writing on Substack, through my podcast episodes, my wellness check-ins. Another theme for me was relationship clarity and emotional maturity. Venus, Neptune, the moon, Saturn, all were traveling through my 7th house. And this was sharing my desires are shifting. What I'm really wanting, what I really want to attract to me are shifting, especially when it comes through partnerships. And this was really highlighting me being honest in all of my partnerships, whether it be my marriage, collaborations, work, my partnership on this podcast, making sure that I'm coming through with honesty, soulful, and aligned. Another theme that popped through was creativity. Creativity was a big theme. Creativity going along with my spiritual awakening. Venus and Uranus, Jupiter and Mercury and Neptune transits really spoke to these creativity and telling me and showing me that my intuition, my gifts, and my creative fire are awakening now. And I really do feel like I'm stepping into a new direction. And with Pluto transiting through my sixth house, my routines and wellness are transforming. So I'm really writing a new relationship with my work, with my health, with my daily energy management. I've joined the Apple universe and I've invested in myself and got a new Mac. And I've really seen how integrating not only my Notion, but Apple Intelligence with the reminders and calendars. I went on a deep dive, YouTube University deep dive on how I could use this to support me. And it's been so supportive. So shout out to Pluto and Aquarius, highlighting this sixth house themes for me, seeing how I use technology to help me in my wellness routines and ritual. And then the last one, which could be the biggest one, most sensitive one, was healing my old emotional wounds. Neptune and Chiron, Saturn, MC, Venus aspects were all hitting these ancestral places in my chart. And inner child healing was telling that it needs to be tended to. But not only my inner child's heart, okay? The grief that my inner child held and is still holding. And I'm softening into that emotional sovereignty now. So those transits were big transits. And Scorpio for me in whole sign travels through the third house. So this is the third in whole sign and the second in Placidus. So these are conversations around my values, my energy, and how I've been distributing information and what I may need, in how I am asking to receive or what I'm willing to receive for myself as well. So this is communication around emotional depth. I pulled a beautiful card from my New Orleans voodoo deck. I can't remember what the name of it, but they have some really beautiful cards. And one of the cards that I pulled through was the Simbi. It was the Simbi, the Six of Congo, I believe, which is like the Six of Cups, Six of Water. But it really reminded me, the image of this card really reminded me of the Six of Swords. And Six of Swords was a huge theme for me this Scorpio season. I kept pulling it, letting me know that I'm navigating these emotional waters, and my ancestors and my spirit guides are guiding me to this next destination. So it's like, buckle up, buttercup. We're going on a journey. We're going on a deep emotional journey. And that's what the Simbi also talked about. It's Simbi in this card talked about the ability to travel from the depths of the ocean to discover the deepest layers of being. The Simbi's whispers the deepest layers to the whale who Aloha La Benin, and uses that information to communicate to La Saren, who is able to come to the surface and communicate that relationship. So from that deep exploration of the Radha Simbi, knowing and having that deep emotional knowledge to bring it to the minds of conscious awareness. I've had so many dreams of this, and this is exactly what I felt like was coming up and wanting to be communicated, wanting to be communicated out. So big third house theme. And when I look at the second house theme, I'm noticing value. When I think of second house, I think of what you value, right? It's a Venus ruled house, Taurus house, the things that you value, the materials that you value. And then for me, Scorpio season really highlighted the value that I hold within myself, the value that I have as my own sacred sovereign being, my own solo Christine. I noticed that myself, with having my Pluto in Scorpio, Scorpio ruling my third house, is that I actually create emotionally safe spaces for people to communicate their deepest emotions, to communicate those emotions that come through the bottom of the ocean in order to feel safe to do so. And, they come to me for me to share wisdom from what I see, whether it's in their chart, their human design, astrology, the card divination channeling, and allow them to decipher the message. And I thought that that card was a beautiful representation of Scorpio, third house, whole sign, second house, Placidus. So it showed me exactly where the medicine was landing. And to tap in a little bit about, human design, the energetic. So I got the map. Now, how am I using this energy? And in human design, Scorpio transits through the spleen. A lot of the Scorpio gates are spleen gates. And when we talk about the spleen center in human design, we're talking about survival, intuitive hits, fear gates, primal instinct, ancestral wisdom, and your immune health. So Scorpio season naturally activates these splenic themes. Scorpio and the spleen they both speak language of fear and power, but they also both invite us to deeper levels of truth. So, if you want more information on the splenic center, I think I might, if that's of interest to you, share a little bit about the spleen center, showing you it in your human design charts, what it means, if it's defined, if it's not defined, what it could mean in regards to fear and power and all of that. So if that's of interest to you, let me know. I'll be more than happy to kind of walk through that and dive a little bit deeper into the spleen center and maybe write about it on Substack. So make sure you're following me on all the stuff. So if I do have an intuitive hit, a splenic hit, to do that, I will definitely share that. If that's something of interest, I need something to respond to. So let me know. Emotional authority also was a big theme. Again, we're speaking about the emotions, the depths of the emotions. So, where does that lie in the human design chart? The emotional authority. So even though the spleen is a big theme during Scorpio season, working with the emotional authority as well as the splenic authority. And one of the last gates that is in Scorpio season in human design is gate 14. This is called the gate of power skills, also known as the gate of prosperity, also known as the creation energy and the energy of miracle grow. And I love this because this is 24 degrees Scorpio into 7 degrees Sagittarius. And so this energy really speaks about power and prosperity, and empowering yourself naturally empowers others. If you're vibing high with this energy, you focus your energy on love, and you're empowered by what you love. If you're vibing low, you're a slave to the work and sacrificing your self-work to others. This is a sacral generated channel. So I really see this as a mic drop moment, the power of the mic drop, sharing and walking away, knowing the power that your words, knowing the power of my words, bringing this back to me in my personal experiment. So knowing the power that my words hold is enough to completely walk away and not necessarily have to explain and go through the mic details of it all. Big theme. That's my power. That's the power of the mic drop, to be able to drop and allow people to say, hey, I'm giving you this thing. This is your opportunity to integrate that medicine. So some of the intuitive rituals and practices that supported me during the Scorpio season was working with the Scorpio moon cycle. And the Scorpio new moon showed me some opportunities and lunar work that I need to do during this cycle. And knowing the cycle lasts 2.5 years, there's some work. So the themes that I'm working with after understanding the Scorpio new moon chart, not only for the collective, but for myself, I noticed that it's asking for a rebirth of honesty to better believe myself, to better trust myself in an unapologetic way. Also, honor the intensity of my emotions. A quote from Jessica Laneno, she stated that the more intense emotions are, the more deeply you're able to feel things that deepen your life. Let me read that again. The more intense emotions are, the more deeply you can feel things, the deeper your life can be. One more time. More intense emotions are. The more intense the emotions are, the more deeply you can feel things, and the deeper your life can be. So sealing with those emotions, sitting with those feelings, and feeling that awareness, rather than letting my mind take over. Feeling my feels really empowers me to sort through my fears. If I can't tolerate intense emotions, how can I expect to work with intense emotions, right? So these are big themes in this lunar cycle for me, centering myself and my energy, and, not necessarily always carrying the weight of others' emotions, and but understanding fear is a big thing, right? With the spleen engaged, fear is a big thing, but we have the power, and remembering the power of the mic drop. During the season, Gede season, the ancestors definitely came through, other spirit guides that came through that I give thanks to showing up and supporting me during this season. It was Ezili Fuera, Gede, especially Mama Brigitte, Papa Gede, and Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene has been dropping some really deep soul heart medicine, and for that I give thanks. I talked about the Six of Swords being a major theme of transition, travel, and new direction, and leaving the old me behind and heading towards that new life. And also working with my cycles has been extremely supportive to me. Not only my this Scorpio moon cycle, but my lunar return cycle. When I pulled my lunar return chart, I was a Scorpio sun in the 4th house, Leo rising, and with fixed angles, right? And a Virgo moon falling into the 2nd house. So I thought that was just so interesting. So working with this energy really calls me to rebuild my self-worth and creative expression from the inside out, guided by ancestral healing, sun in the 4th house, and that emotional truth, and the bold reclamation of my voice, being courageous, that Leo rising. Everything about this lunar return chart speaks to my self-worth, my voice, my creative stability, and my emotional security, and my relationships to money and purpose and family lineage. So working with my lunar return cycle was definitely a big thing. And also working with my human design cycle, is knowing right now that I'm a projector with a splenic authority. So really for this time in my life, as I'm, in the middle of my Saturn return cycle before I head into my Uranus opposition, that I need to wait to be seen and recognized in order to share my projections with others. Really tune into those whispers of the spleen. Those quick intuitive hits are going to be extremely valuable for me in my human design cycle right now. So diving into that was super, super, super eye-opening and supportive for me. If you wanted me to speak more about human design cycles, I'd be more than happy to explain it a little bit, go a little bit deeper, share my chart, share what it means, via like a YouTube tutorial video. So if that's something that interests you, let me know what it means. But yeah, this season I'm a 6'2". I'm normally a 3'6", so I'm a 6'2". So that's that role model, like it showing up as the role model, but also hermiting when I need to, being called out only when I'm seen and recognized. So shout out to the lunar return cycle, human design cycle, and this last Leo cycle that I closed up, which I shared a lot about on my latest wellness check-in. So make sure you check out the previous episode to hear more of that. But with this, as I end and close my reflections, I realize that I am on a Six of Swords journey, which requires, this is some like a transition that Jessica Lynetto spoke to that really, I feel like embodies this journey that I'm on, this emotional journey that I'm on. First, I'm seeing the expansion, expand, ground, explore, review, be intentional, adapt, identify, pivot, and relax. So while I'm on that boat and I feel the expansion, I'm ready for the expansion. I hop in the boat. I ground while I'm in the boat. I keep my eyes open as I explore. I review what I'm taking in through my senses. I'm intentional about how I use that information. I adapt it into how I know I need to move. I identify with this new self that I'm becoming. And then once I step on that land, I pivot and I relax in this sovereignty. And it takes vulnerability with all of this emotional stuff, these emotional ways. It takes vulnerability. And another one of the cycles that really supported me, or tools that really supported me this season, is taking my own medicine. Carolyn with the Knowledge Wellness and I created these beautiful zodiac ritual guides that guide you through each zodiac season. So I listened to the medicine of Scorpio, and it was so deep, it was so rich, and it was so empowering. And those are coming out soon. We haven't released all of them, but make sure you stay tuned, because I'll make sure that I share that. And Scorpio was powerful. And there's a quote that Carolyn shared during our team meditation practice, because in the mood guides, you get, we go through in depth, like really depth, the sign, each zodiacal sign. So I shared a lot about the zodiac that is Scorpio, the zodiac sign that is Scorpio. And then we do a tea meditation with a herb that came up. And Carolyn talked in this about being vulnerable. And she stated that, this is a quote for her, being vulnerable is a mystical art. Vulnerability leads to intimacy, and intimacy leads to movement within the water itself. So in order to get that boat moving, that water moving, it requires being vulnerable. Knowing that vulnerability is a mystical art, and vulnerability needs intimacy. Scorpio, 8th house, intimacy. If you want more information on intimacy, bonding strategies, check out that episode. I'll make sure that I link that below. I have a podcast episode all about intimacy. But that intimacy leads to the waters, the movement to get that activated, the movement within the water itself. So what am I realizing as I'm closing? I'm realizing what the universe is asking me to speak. And right now it's asking me to speak about how I'm stepping into full embodiment of my new identity without fear. How I'm facing my fears and allowing it to lead me into new emotional healing I never knew I needed, because it was so buried deep on the bottom of the ocean. Now that I've traveled through some of those deep layers of being witnessed and being vulnerable to the secrets that were deep into my subconscious, I know that I now swim to the surface and with spirit. And spirit has made it clear to me that during Sagittarius season, I'm supposed to be sharing this wisdom, being more vulnerable, teaching from this embodied wisdom, embodied teacher place on how I develop and create my own philosophy, ensuring that I am clear on my own personal philosophy and not causing too much confusion by listening too much to other people and by hiding in the details like my Virgo side wants to do. So speaking through vulnerability, the version of myself that I'm releasing is releasing that version of myself that's scared to step into her power due to fear of what it means to access my fullest power. The version of myself that I'm releasing is the need to be codependent in partnerships to feel powerful, but to see myself as a powerful on my own and to letting my power be seen solo. Relationship patterns that I'm carrying into this Sagittarian season that I'm not actually carrying into the Sagittarius season. So I'm not carrying codependency in relationships. I'm not gathering the opinions of others first before formulating and forming my own decisions. I know that the creativity is awakening through me. So with this new vulnerability and creativity and how I'm showing up, I need to really make sure that I'm creating through the lens of the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps are personal, what's personal to me, what's private to me, and what's public. So this is very personal, but this is also public because I know it's through me speaking it. It's not only medicine for me, but it could be medicine for other people as well. And I know the health themes that surrounding that I'm taking with me into Sag season is I'm starting this whole 30 journey. So no sugars, no breads, I'm just doing meats and vegetables and fruits, really. I'm inviting meal prepping to help me with the success of this. Meal prepping through ritual meal prepping, being intentional about my meals through prayer and no distractions, really tuning into my cognitive digestion. If you want more on that, let me know. And daily movement practices are really, really, really important for me. And so what is my heart ready to admit as I leave Scorpio and enter into Sagittarius season? And my heart is ready to explore my IC, to explore my paternal roots, where there's so much emotional distress and pain there, and grief there. But I know that I'm ready for this next layer of heart healing. So exploring that IC work. And how I can choose myself more deeply after reflecting on the Scorpio and moving into Sag. I can choose myself more deeply by honoring my body, my health, and my energy, by addressing the deep heart wounds that I choose to avoid and allowing myself to receive constant love and luxury on a daily basis in my own terms. Is how I choose to love myself more deeply. So as I truly, truly wrap it up, this reflection has helped me so much to get clear on my arrow, the end destination, the goal that I need to point during the Sagittarius season. If you think about the archer, you need to have a goal in mind. You really need to understand on what you need to focus on before we let go and let that arrow fly. So through this reflection, it has helped me refine my goal of where I can expand, where I can go even deeper into my own philosophy, where I can travel into the depths as I navigate the Sagittarius season, where I feel clearer, softer, braver, and more activated in my own truth. Because, Sagittarius is all about truth. So what is your truth? What is your philosophy based on what came up during Scorpio season? This is that invitation. As I leave you, I want to thank you for listening to my reflection. I hope that it was helpful for you in any way. If it was, share with me what some of the things that came to you during Scorpio season and what you may be looking forward to in Sagittarius season. And I encourage you to look back so we can really integrate as we move forward. And if you like help with any of the things that I mentioned, or just need a soft space to land as you're navigating these emotional waters as your cosmic doula, that's what I'm here for. If you need help in support of that integration of your own season, exploring your chart, your cycles, your human design cycle, your lunar return cycle, feel free. That's what these cosmic doula sessions are for. I'd be happy to honor and to support you. And until next time, until we navigate this Sagittarius going into Capricorn season, take deep care of yourself as we navigate these next couple of weeks. I invite you to invite in abundance and joy and philosophy and truth. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. So much love to you on your journey. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Intuitive Wellness Experiment. May you continue to trust your rhythms, honor your intuition, and gather tools that liberate you. If you're feeling this journey, share it with someone you love or subscribe on Substack to stay connected. That's it for this episode. Keep listening to your body, keep trusting your path, and remember, your intuition is the revolution. Your wellness is sacred. Merci beaucoup and merci en pile. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time.